we start our discussion with the three laws of motion. Okay, so we are going to talk about the three laws of motion. Okay, so we start it with a nice video. So let's start it with a nice video. Okay, all of you listen to this video carefully. Okay, now all of you pay attention and listen to this video.
Look at this room. This room is so neat and tidy. Everything is so neatly placed in this room. Now, if no one was to enter this room or disturb an object in this room, would they move by themselves? Obviously no. So what can we conclude from this? Well, we can conclude that an object at rest stays at rest if left undisturbed. They would not move by themselves. But what about moving objects? Let's see. Well, if we move this ball, that is, we kick this ball, what do we notice? We notice that it has a tendency to come to rest after a certain time. So, moving objects have a tendency to come to rest after a certain time. Based on these two experiments, we can conclude that rest is the natural state. All objects tend to come to rest after a certain point in time. Scientists believed in this notion of rest being the natural state for thousands of years before they were proved wrong by another scientist named Galileo. Galileo agreed that an object at rest stays at rest if left undisturbed. But he did not agree that an moving object has a tendency to come to rest. Instead, he said that an object in motion continues to be in motion with the same velocity if left undisturbed. That is, a moving object would never stop until or unless a force is applied to it. Now, this doesn't seem that intuitive. So, let us perform a small experiment to validate this. Here, we have three different surfaces. Surface 1 is made of grass, surface 2 is made of ice, and surface 3 is a special surface. We will try to roll a ball on each of these surfaces by applying an equal force. Observe what happens. Well, you notice that the ball moves a greater distance in surface 2 as compared to surface 1. And in the case of surface 3, the ball keeps moving with the same velocity indefinitely. Now notice that the ball does not stop immediately after you kick the ball. That is, immediately after you withdraw the force from the ball doesn't automatically stop. It moves a certain distance before stopping. So, force is not exactly required to keep the ball in motion. The ball can continue to move even when you are not applying a force onto the ball. So what stopped these balls on surface 1 and surface 2 eventually? Well, the ball stopped because all surfaces exert a force onto an object placed on them. This force is known as the frictional force. And this force opposes the motion of the object. So even when we cannot observe any force acting on the ball, there is a frictional force acting on the ball which is in the opposite direction of the motion of the ball. Now, why was it that the ball moved a greater distance on surface 2 as compared to surface 1? This is because the frictional force acting on the ball on surface 2 was less than that of surface 1. Hence, the ball on surface 2 was able to move a greater distance as compared to surface 1. Now, what about surface 3? I had mentioned that surface 3 is a special surface. Surface 3 is prepared in such a way that it is frictionless. That is, it does not exert any friction of an object placed on it. And what did we observe for surface 3? We observed that the ball kept moving with the same velocity indefinitely. So, we can conclude that an object in motion stops due to the presence of a force and not due to the absence of a force. The force over here was the frictional force which was making the ball stop. If there was no frictional force, as in case 3 or surface 3, the ball would have kept moving with the same velocity indefinitely. Newton summarized these observations in his first law, wherein he stated that an object at rest continues to be at rest and an object in motion continues to move with the same velocity unless an unbalanced force is applied to it. So what can we conclude from this? We saw that in order to make a resting ball move, we had to apply force. Further, in order to make a moving ball stop, there was some force involved, the frictional force in this case. So force is required to change the state of motion. To make a resting ball move, we need force. To make a moving ball stop, we need force. Hence, force is the cause of change in state of motion. Further, by making a resting ball move or a moving ball stop, we are essentially changing its velocity. So force is the cause of change in velocity. And since change in velocity is simply acceleration, force is the cause of acceleration. Now what does the direction of force have to do with acceleration? Observe something here. When the direction of force is in line with the direction of motion, that is, when we kicked the ball in this direction, we saw that the velocity of the ball increased from 0 to a positive value. So what can we conclude about acceleration? Well, acceleration was positive in such a case. Now what about the second case, when friction was acting on the moving ball? Since friction acts in the opposite direction of motion, we noticed that the frictional force reduced the velocity of the object. Hence, the acceleration was negative in this case. So when the direction of force is in line with the direction of motion, acceleration is positive. And when the direction of force is opposite to the direction of motion, the acceleration is negative. Now notice, we have written that force is the cause of change in velocity. Now change in velocity can happen due to change in speed or change in direction. So we've discussed about speed here. Also, there is the possibility of change in direction. So force need not always change speed. Force can also just change the direction, or it could change both speed as well as direction. So for example, in a football game, when the striker deflects the ball into the goal post, he might just change the direction of the motion of the ball, or he might change both the speed and direction of the ball. In both the cases, it is the force exerted by the striker on the ball which is making the ball move into the goal post. Further, what happens when we pull a rubber band? We know that pulling is a force. So when you are exerting force onto the rubber band, the shape and size of the rubber band changes. So force can also cause change in shape and size. So force causes change in state of motion. Change in state of motion can be change in speed, change in direction, change in shape, or change in size of the object. So to conclude, Newton's first law states that an object at rest continues to be at rest and an object in motion continues to move with the same velocity unless an unbalanced force is applied to it.
Write down this definition, beta. This is the definition of Newton's first law of motion. Write down. All of you write down this definition. Copied? What's the Newton?
Wait.
Beta?
Done, sir. Done.
Done? Okay. Okay. So we have discussed a very important statement, the Newton's first law of motion. What it says? What it says? It says that the object at rest remains at rest. What it says, beta? It says that the object at rest, it remains at rest unless we apply a force on it. And so this is such an obvious thing. That is not a great thing to observe. This is something which we observe very often. What? Let me share a screen. Look at it. Okay. Look at it. So let's take this example. So we observe that this is a box. Now this box is at rest. And since this box is at rest, it will remain at rest. Clear? This box will remain at rest. So what the law says? Actually, you can figure out this law in three parts. The first part says the body at rest remains at rest unless a force is applied on it. So this body, I'm talking about this box, you will find that this box will remain at rest. This box will remain at rest. Why this box will remain at rest? Because it is at rest. So it will remain at rest until and unless you apply a force on this object. So this is such an obvious common observation that an object at rest remains at rest. That's not a big deal. But the second law is something, the second part of this law is something which we don't easily understand. Okay, what it says? It says that if a body is moving, what it says, beta? If the body is moving, it continue to move with the same speed in the same direction unless a force is applied on it. Now, this is something which we literally disagree. See, I will show you why we disagree. See, I apply the force on this object. Okay, I apply the force. So let me just show you the force. Okay, so I apply the force on this object, and we observe that as we apply the force, the object is, we observe that the object is moving. But what happens after that? The object comes to rest. Yes or no, class? See, again I will apply the force. I apply the force, the object is accelerating. I stop applying the force. What happens? What happens to this object? Come on, semi class. What happened to the object? Is it continues to
It
move?
will stop.
Yes. See, I apply the force. When I apply the force, the object is moving. I stop applying the force. You find that the object is not continue to move. Exactly what the law says. The law says that if a body is moving, now look at this body. Is this moving? Yes, this body is moving. But this body which is moving, the law says that if the body is moving, it will continue to move with the same speed. Do you think? Do you think it is moving with the same speed? No. Look at the speedometer. The speed is not same. In fact, the speed is decreasing. So this is something which we don't observe in our daily life. We don't observe this beta, that the object in motion continues to remain in motion in the same with the same speed and in the same direction. Okay, why? Because earlier people used to believe this. What people used to believe, that the natural tendency of an object is to come to rest. And till thousands of years before Galileo, people were having this impression that all the objects, they tends to come to rest. But this is not true. The object, it always stays in the position in which it is. That if the object is at rest, it remains at rest. And if the object is in motion, it remains in motion. But we don't observe that. See, I am applying a force. I am applying a force. And as I apply the force, we observe that this object is in motion. But is this object remaining in motion? No. The object is not remaining in motion. Why? Because this is what the difference in observation of Galileo and the scientists before Galileo. So, why it is not moving? Why it is not continue to move? The law says that if this object is moving, it should continue to move. But it is not moving. Do you know why? Because there is some force which is acting. And now I will show you that force. Okay, look at this. Now when I apply the force, you find you are applying a force, but at the same time there is one more force. Look at that force. Which is that force? That force is the friction force. And this friction force is making this object to stop. See, this object is stopping because of this friction force. If I increase the friction force, this object will be stopped quickly. So the friction is that force due to which the object is not moving continuously. It is due to this friction. See, I apply the force. See, when I apply the force, the friction is always there. And the moment I stop applying, you find that this object is no more continue to move with the same speed. Why? Because there is a force acting in the opposite direction to motion. And this force is our friction force. Okay, now what will happen? Now what I did, I reduced the friction. See, I am reducing the friction and I make the friction 0. Now it is not possible to have this in real life, but assume we made the friction to 0. And now I apply the force, and as I apply the force, okay, and now I am no more applying the force. And what we observe, class? We observe that this object which is in motion now is continuously moving with the same speed. Look at the speedometer. It is not 0. The object is continuously moving with the same speed in the same direction. Why? Now there is no force acting on it. But assume I introduce friction here. See what happened. I introduce friction. What happened? Look at it. What happened? We observe that the object comes to rest. So what is the law? The law says if the body is at rest, it remains at rest. Unless a force is applied on it. Obviously, this body is at rest and will remain at rest unless I apply the force. See, I apply the force and the body starts moving. But the second part of the law is little difficult to understand. What it says that if a body is moving, it will continue to move with the same speed in the same direction unless a force is acting on it. But we don't observe these phenomena because there is a friction, and due to this friction we fail to understand the thing in a proper way. But if we make a surface which is frictionless, there is no friction, and when you apply the force, you will find now the object in motion, you will find it will continue to remain in motion with the same speed and the same direction. All of you getting it, class? So this is what the Newton's law of motion tells us, that the object in motion, see, this is the object in motion. So it says that the object in motion remains in motion with the same speed. Look at the speed. The speed is same with the same speed and the same direction, unless a force is applied on it. Now what I will do, I will apply the friction force on it, and see, I applied the friction force on it, and we observe that now this object is no more in motion. Clear, class? ये बच्चा लोग, तुमको न्यूटन फर्स्ट लॉ समझ में आया क्या? किसी को कुछ बोलना नहीं है, मतलब सबने ऑडियो वीडियो बंद करके सब सो रहे हैं. हाँ, ऑल ऑफ यू आर स्लीपिंग बाय टर्निंग ऑफ द ऑडियो एंड वीडियो.
नो सर.
हाँ
समझा
तो
समझा.
हाँ तो रिस्पॉन्ड ना रे बाबा, कुछ तो बोला करो ना.
नो सर.
सर आवाज अटक रही है थोड़ी.
नो सर.
इंटरनेट स्पीड लो है, स्पीड लो.
All of you, are you getting it, beta?
यस सर.
sir.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. What we observe? We observe that the object in motion remains in motion with the same speed and the same direction. Clear? Okay, chalo. So this is nothing but this is our first law of motion. Have you written the statement of it?
यस.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Now we will talk about. I'll stop this. Now we will talk about the write down the heading qualitative. Write down the heading, बच्चा लोग. Qualitative discussion of first law. There are actually three laws. So we'll start with our qualitative discussion of first law. Okay. Now, if you look at this first law, it says that the object at rest remains at rest, and the object in motion remains in motion with the same speed and the same direction. So actually, you will find that this law is talking about two things. This law is actually can be divided into two parts. Okay, the first part is about the inertia, and the second part of this is about force. Inertia and force. Inertia and force. Now you will ask me, sir, what is inertia? Exactly. Now, as I said that this law is actually in two parts. The first part is talking about inertia, and the second part is talking about force. So let's talk about how this law is talking about inertia. So to understand how this topic is, how this law is talking about inertia, we need to understand the definition of inertia. So write down the definition of inertia. Write down the definition of inertia. What is inertia? It is nothing but it is the property of an object by virtue of which it neither changes its state nor it tends to change the state. Its state is called inertia. What is inertia? So inertia is nothing but it is the property, it is the characteristics of all the objects by which it neither changes its state, neither it tends to change its state. Okay, it means it is the property by which an object tends to remain, or the object tends to remain in the state in which it is. Okay. What it is? It means that the object always tends to remain in the state in which it is. Like as I told you yesterday, how many types of state we have? So there are two types of state. Yes or no? Yesterday we have discussed. The first is the state of rest and the second is the state of motion. So if the object is in the state of rest, so it is due to inertia, the object remains in the state of rest. And if the object is in motion, so it is due to inertia, the object remains in the state of motion. So this characteristic of the object to remain in the state in which it is called as inertia. What it is, beta? It is nothing but it is the characteristics of the material to remain in the state in which it is. In whatever state the object is, it will always try to remain in that state only. If the object is in the state of rest, it will always try to remain in the state of rest. If the object is in the state of motion, it will always try to remain in the state of motion. Clear? So this is nothing but what the Newton's first law of motion says. It says that the object at rest remains at rest and the object in motion remains in motion. The object in motion remains in motion. Okay, so what is this? This is nothing but this is the inertia. And then the second part of the law. What the second part of the law says, that if the object is at rest and if you don't find the object is at rest, if you don't find the object is remaining in the state of rest, why? It is due to the application of force. Or if the object is in motion and if you don't find that object is in remaining in motion, and if you don't find the object is remaining in motion, it is due to force. Exactly. So the Newton's first part tells us about the force, and the second part talks about, the first part talks about the inertia and the second part talks about force. So according to this definition of Newton's first law, if you understand what is force, so you'll come to know that force is that external cause. What is force? Force is that external cause which tends to change the state of rest or the state of motion of an object. This is how we can define force according to the Newton's first law. According to the Newton's first law, this is how we can define force. So what we can say? We can say force is that external cause which tends to change the state of rest or the state of motion. Means what, beta? If the object is at rest, so it is due to force, it will change its state into motion. And if the object is in motion, then it is due to force that it will come to the state of rest. So it is the force that is the cause which changes or tends to change the state of rest or the state of motion of an object. So you will come to know that the Newton's first law is actually talking about inertia and talking about force. Is it very clear, class? Is it very clear, class?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Very good.
Yes.
Okay, so it
Yes,
is
sir.
due to force. Okay. Now we will talk about the inertia. Okay, so as I said, what is inertia? Inertia is nothing but it is a tendency of an object to remain in the state in which it is. But understand that inertia, yeah, I hope class you are writing all these things, huh? You are copying all these things now.
Yes,
Sir,
sir.
can you
Please
please show
copy.
the
So
previous
whatever I am
slide?
writing on the board, you all have to copy. So inertia.
Sir, can you please show the previous slide?
Tabi, wait a minute, wait a minute. I will show you. Inertia and mass. Chalo, write down the heading. But before that, let him write something. Write down. Copy it.
Yes, sir.
Chalo. Okay. Now we will talk about little bit about inertia and mass. Okay. So more the mass of an object, more is the inertia it possesses. Exactly. So understand, this is the relation between mass and inertia. Means what, beta? If the object is more massive, it has more inertia. And if the object is less massive, it has less inertia. How? Let me give you a very simple example. Assume this is a small stone. Assume this is the ground. Let me draw. Okay, so this is the ground. Okay. And on the ground, there is a stone lying. A small stone is lying on the ground. Okay. A small stone is lying. So what do? This stone is in the state of rest. Okay. So it will remain in the state of rest. Why? Because of inertia. But if you apply a little bit of force, so what will happen? It will start moving. Why? Because its mass is less. So that's why to change the state, it requires less force because its mass is less. But assume there is a big boulder on the road, exactly, a big stone, exactly. Now, if you try to apply a force on this stone, will it move? No. Why it is not going to move? Because it has more inertia. And why it has more inertia? Because its mass is more. So more the mass of an object, more is the inertia it possesses. So definitely you require lot of force to move this big stone. Exactly. Why? Because it has more mass. And as it has more mass, it has more inertia. Clear, class? So remember, what is the relation between mass and inertia? More the mass of an object, more is the inertia it possesses. Means it has more tendency to remain in the state in which it is. This small stone is having less tendency to remain in the state in which it is. Why? Because its inertia is less. So the force required will also be less. But this stone has more mass. So it has more inertia, and that's why it is not easy to move this object because its inertia is more. So what is inertia? It is nothing but it is a tendency of an object to be in the state in which it is. Okay. Now we will talk about write down the next heading, types of inertia. Types of inertia. Okay. So there are two types of inertia. The first is inertia of rest, and the second is inertia of motion. Inertia of rest and inertia of motion. So there are so many examples where you will find the inertia of rest and the inertia of motion. Okay, so inertia, write down. There are two types of inertia, beta, the inertia of rest and inertia of motion. Have you copied this? Okay. Now, I will share another very interesting video for you to understand inertia. Okay, pay attention.
Is it that while traveling in a bus, if you're not Why is it that while traveling in a bus, if you're not holding any support, you tend to fall backwards when the bus starts to move, and you tend to fall forwards if the bus stops suddenly? Before I answer this, let us visit Newton's first law.
Beta bacha. Someone is trying to. Let's start.
Why is it that while traveling in a bus, if you're not holding any support, you tend to fall backwards when the bus starts to move, and you tend to fall forwards if the bus stops suddenly? Before I answer this, let us visit Newton's first law. Newton's first law of motion states that an object at rest continues to be at rest, and an object in motion continues to move with the same velocity unless an unbalanced force is applied to it. So one way to interpret this is that an object at rest has a tendency to be at rest, and an object in motion has a tendency to be in motion with the same velocity. And this tendency of an object to stay at rest or to keep moving with the same velocity is known as inertia. So, inertia is the tendency of an object to remain in its present state of motion and to resist any change in its present state of motion. Because of inertia, an object not only remains in its present state of motion, but it also resists any change in its present state of motion. Further, higher the resistance, higher is the inertia. Now, if we have these two cars, which one do you think would be easier to move? Since both these cars are initially at rest, they would have a tendency to be at rest. That is, they would resist a change in their state of motion. We notice that it is comparatively easy to move the small car, but it is difficult to move the bigger one. Therefore, the bigger car or the car weighing more exhibits more resistance. Hence, the heavier car has more inertia. So we saw that higher the mass, greater would be the inertia. So mass is a measure of inertia. Now inertia could be of two types. Inertia of rest, which is the tendency of an object at rest to stay at rest. And inertia of motion, which is the tendency of an object in motion to keep moving with the same velocity. Now the concept of this inertia of rest or inertia of motion may sound counterintuitive to you. But let me show you some videos to demonstrate the same. Observe this setup carefully. We notice that the chalk is kept exactly on top of the opening of the bottle. Now notice what happens if we move the ring very quickly. See, the chalk did not move along with the ring, but fell inside the bottle. Why did this happen? This happened because the chalk possessed inertia of rest. So when the ring was set in motion, the chalk resisted the change in motion, because of which it fell into the bottle. Can you give me an example where we use inertia of rest of an object to do our work? Well, an example would be cleaning of our carpets. When we beat the carpet, we set the carpet in motion. But the dust particles resist the change in motion due to inertia of rest, and hence the dust particles fall off. Now observe what happens here. We notice that when the two chairs collide, the books move from one chair to the other. Why did the books move from one chair to the other? Well, the books were also moving along with the chair and hence possessed inertia of motion. So when the chair stopped or went backwards, the books continued in their line of motion due to inertia of motion and hence got transferred to the other chair. Now let us look at a real life application of this concept. What happens in a car accident? When we are sitting in our car, our body attains the velocity of the car. Now if the car suddenly stops, our body continues to be in motion due to the inertia of motion, and we could hit ourselves against the car. Hence, it is very important to wear seat belts while sitting in a car. So now can you answer why you fall backwards when the bus starts moving or fall forwards when the bus suddenly stops? Well, when the bus is at rest, your body is also at rest. Now when the bus starts to move, your body resists the movement due to the inertia of rest, and hence you tend to fall backwards to maintain your initial position. Similarly, in a moving bus, your body is also in a state of motion. Now when the driver suddenly applies brakes, your body resists coming to rest due to inertia of motion, and hence you fall forwards. So Newton's first law of motion can be interpreted in terms of the tendency of an object to stay at rest or to keep moving with the same velocity. And hence, Newton's first law is also known as the law of inertia.
Getting it, class? Okay, so we observe this inertia. There are two types of inertia. Okay, the first is the inertia of rest and the second is the inertia of motion. So we always observe that if the object is at rest, it always tends to remain at rest. Okay, it is due to the inertia of rest. Okay, so the examples are that when a train suddenly starts moving forward, the passenger standing in the compartment tends to fall backwards. Why they are falling backwards? Because they are in the state of rest and they want to remain in the state of rest. But the train starts moving ahead. So as the train starts moving ahead, the lower part of the body, which is in contact with the floor of the train, starts moving along with it. But the upper part of the body is in the inertia of rest and it wants to remain in the state of rest, and that's the reason why the passengers, they tends to fall backwards. And that is the reason why as well we are given n number of handles in the local train, so that when you are standing you hold that handle. Why? Because your ground, your lower part of the body is in contact with the ground, so it will come to rest with the floor, but the upper part will also come to rest because you are holding the upper part of the body with the train. The same way, when a hanging carpet is beaten, the stick with a stick, the dust particles starts falling out. Why it is falling out? Because of the inertia of rest. The same is the reason why on shaking or giving jerk to the branches of a tree, the fruit falls down. So why the fruit is falling down? The fruit, let's take an example of a mango. It is having mass. So since it is having mass, it has inertia and it wants to remain in the state of rest. But when you shake the tree, when you shake the branch of it, so you find that after shaking the branch moves, but the fruit remains at its place. And it is due to this, it gets detached and fall on the ground. The same way, on striking the coin at the bottom of a pile of carom with a striker, the lowest coin only moves away while the rest of the pile remains intact. This is again due to the inertia of rest. And then we have some examples of inertia of motion as well. Okay, like the cyclist riding along a level road does not come to rest immediately after he stops pedaling. Yes or no? Assume you are riding the bicycle and you stop pedaling. What will happen? Will you immediately come to rest the moment you stop pedaling? No, you will not come to rest immediately if you stop paddling. Do you know why? Because your body is in motion, and that's the reason why your body wants to remain in motion. Okay. The same way, when the passenger jumps out of a moving train, he falls. Exactly. Why? Because when the passenger is standing in the train, he is having the motion of the train. He is having the velocity of the train. And when he jumps on the platform, he immediately come to rest. He immediately come to rest. But he is in motion, and that is the reason why he falls. Okay. The same is the reason that when a running car stops suddenly, the passenger tends to lean forward. Yes, you must have experienced this, that when your dad applies the brake, you tends to lean forward. This is again due to the inertia of motion. And the same is the reason an athlete often runs before taking a long jump. Why the athlete prefer to run before taking a long jump? Because if he runs, his body will be in the inertia of motion, and when he will jump in the air, he will continue to move. He will continue to move, and he will take a long jump. So that's why the athlete always they prefer to take a long run. They run faster before taking a long jump. Okay, so these are some of our examples of inertia of motion and inertia of rest.